Hi everyone, welcome back to Julia's story. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. The rooftop smells like perfume and clean money. A ribbon of river glitters below the glass rail, and the chandeliers swing easy like they have never heard of rent. I keep my tray high and my eyes up. Red wine left, sparkling right, water in the middle for people who pretend they are not thirsty. The auctioneer is a showman with a velvet voice. He sells a weekend on a yacht to a woman in a green dress who lifts her paddle like it weighs nothing. He sells a signed guitar to a man whose smile shows too much gum. Laughter skates over the floor. The city leans in to listen. I pivot past the head table. Mara Lang sits at the center in ice blue, shoulders bare, diamonds arranged like a sentence that ends with itself. She is the board chair and she treats chairs like stages. To her left is Victor Ames, finance chief, elbow always out, eyes always counting. He touches the base of his glass with 2 fingers and makes it look like a warning. I top him off because I earn tips from people I would never invite to my table. I pass a slice of skyline and there he is. Adrian Cole. No tie, crisp shirt, face that forgot to ask for applause when it was born. He is the kind of quiet that thinks before it walks. His gaze is not the obvious kind. It takes measure and then sets the ruler down. My phone in my apron hums once. A sitter update. My son is asleep on the sofa, a basketball under his arm. Relief makes my knees soft. I square up. I pour. The auctioneer claps twice, calls for attention, and smiles a fresh smile. Next lot, he says. A dinner with a mystery single mom. Evening of her choosing. Restaurant of her choosing. Conversation without rush. Proceeds to micro-loans for families who got caught between bills and hope. Laughter swells again because rich people think they invented wit. A spotlight finds me. I blink into it and keep my tray steady. The volunteers clap like they just discovered my name. I know who wrote that copy. It was not me. I could step back into the service wing and let this glide past. I could lower my head and smile until the room picks another life to play with. The auctioneer pulls me forward with one hand anyway, and the room tilts. I breathe, and I do not drop a single glass. He opens at 5,000. Paddles rise the way cattails sway. 6, 7, 9. A man with a laugh like a motor goes to 12 and winks like a cartoon. Mara laughs into her champagne and all her teeth show. Victor leans back and checks who is still playing like he can see the numbers through the paddles. The air shifts. Adrian lifts his paddle. His number lands clean. 25. The auctioneer pretends surprise, then tries to sell the surprise to the room. Cameras turn like flowers. Mara's smile sharpens by a degree. Victor's jaw tightens like a fist in a pocket. I lock my knees and imagine the diner where I buy coffee for the regulars who tip in quarters and saris. I imagine the chipped mugs. I imagine my rules. No car service. No press. No promises. The motor laugh bumps to 30. Adrian stays still. The auctioneer purrs to 32. Paddles stutter. Cameras blink. The night finds a hush and sets it down between tables like a plate you can break if you are not careful. Adrian lifts his paddle once more. 50. The room inhales. Somewhere a string in the quartet snaps slow and no one hears it but the violinist who flinches. The auctioneer says the number twice so donors can post it with the right amount of awe. People clap with their palms up so bracelets flash. Mara laces her fingers and hides the small pulse that went wild in her throat. Victor studies the glass in his hand like it has started to speak. Sold, the auctioneer sings. The gavel taps wood. I let out a breath I did not know I was keeping. The spotlight lets go, but the cameras do not. A photographer kneels and aims at me over the lip of a centerpiece. I angle the tray so his flash hits crystal and not my eyes. He grins like a thief. He is not wrong. The auctioneer waves me toward the head table to take a bow. I do not bow. I nod to the room like a server nods to a table that is ready for the check. I move away and slide into the service lane. My hand shakes once. I set the tray down in the scullery sink so no one sees the tremor have its victory. He finds me there. Not a crowd, not a speech. Adrian. He stands in the doorway where the service hall meets the light and waits until my shoulders decide not to tense. Up close he looks exactly like a person who reads numbers and weather and nothing about himself. I set a glass of water on the prep table between us. He does not reach for it. He does not reach for me. He puts both hands in his pockets and keeps them there. Thank you, he says. For what, I ask. For letting me buy time, he says. He is not flirting. It jars me. I should leave him in his good suit and go back to wages. Instead I pick up a rag and wipe a spill that is not there. My throat warms like a warning. We should set rules, I say. Diner. Corner booth. No photos. No entourage. No car idling outside like a threat. He nods. Done. You order soup first, I say. It slows talking down. That is my only superstition. He almost smiles. I can do soup, he says. From the hall, the quartet tries to remember its place. The auctioneer sells a private rehearsal with a ballet company, and half the room pretends to love art. I place the glass back on the tray and make my hands steady. At the head table, Mara notices he is missing and lifts her chin. Victor checks his phone, and the words on his screen harden his mouth. When he looks up, he looks past me like he has been asked to ignore a fire that is standing next to him. Adrian's voice lowers. He remembers enough to be careful with quiet. When he asks, tomorrow, I say. Diner on 7th that still lets kids draw on paper placemats. 8. He nods. He starts to step back into the light and stops. He looks like a man who hates being obvious and is about to commit the crime anyway. They will use you, he says. I will try not to. Try harder, I say. He nods again, almost a bow, and steps into the chandelier glow like he never left it. I lift the tray and re-enter the room I did not choose. The auction has moved on to a mountain lodge week. The bidders are less lively now that they have been fed. I pour water into glasses that do not know what thirst means, and I count my tips with the care of someone who has bought a month of groceries with coins. My phone hums once in my apron. The sitter sent a second photo. My kid is starfished on the sofa, mouth open, ball under his arm like a second heart. I swallow a stupid ache and slide the phone back into its corner. It hums again before the fabric cools. Unknown number. One line. Smile. Tessa. The board watches. I pocket the phone and do not look up. The ice in the white wine bucket shifts like it heard something and could not keep it. At the head table, Mara clinks her glass and speaks to the room with a shine that looks like virtue. Victor's fingers drum a private code. Adrian glances once in my direction and then away, not out of guilt, but out of respect. The auctioneer lifts the gavel again. A stagehand whispers in his ear and his face does a small recalculation. He announces a surprise. A new lot. A private tour of Cole Tower at night, led by Mr. Cole himself. The crowd perks up like dogs promised a car ride. The bid starts low, rises fast, and turns warm. My tray trembles. The text in my pocket glows against the fabric like a coal trying to burn through. I shift my weight so my legs will hold if the floor decides not to. Behind the head table, a man in a dark suit slides a sealed envelope into Mara's hand, and the paper disappears under the linen like a trick you do not clap for. Victor checks the corners for cameras and finds none. The quartet drops a note and recovers. The river outside keeps its slow flash like it does not care what we do. The gavel comes down. The room claps. The envelope remains unseen, and the photographer who grinned at me turns his lens to the terrace doors because someone has just stepped out into the night where the glass meets the sky, and the air changes like a storm you should have read better. The next night, the diner smells like onions, toast, and mercy. Neon from the sign melts against the window and turns the rain pink. The bell over the door gives a tired ring when I step in. Paper place mats. Cracked leather booths. At the counter, a man stirs his coffee like he is keeping time for someone who is late. I choose the back corner that hides a person from a street that likes to look in. I slide my camera bag under the seat and send the sitter one more line. Home by 10. If he wakes, tell him to count the bumps on the ceiling and send each one to sleep. A heart comes back with a photo of a boy who believes in breakfast for dinner and the idea that shoes can fix any problem if they are fast enough. Adrian arrives without noise. No driver shadow. No coat held for effect. Just a man who looks like he could vanish in a crowd if he wanted and knows that people who can vanish are the only ones worth talking to. He pauses by the door and lets his eyes adjust to lights that do not flatter. When he sees me, he does not smile. He looks relieved in a way that makes me angry and soft, then only angry because soft does not pay rent. I raise a hand. He crosses the floor and sits without shuffling the power around. His shoulders place themselves where shoulders go when a room is even. He puts his phone face down. His hands stay visible. Rules first, I say. He nods. He waits. It feels like standing on solid ground for the first time in a week. No press, I say. No entourage lurking by the door with a bill in his pocket. No car idling outside with a man inside who thinks my street is a place to shop for lives. Soup is the first order. I do not talk about my son if you treat him like a prop. I do not trade my story for a number and a napkin. Done, he says. The waitress in the red polo arrives with a pencil that has teeth marks. What are we having? 2 bowls of chicken noodle, he says. Quick, like he studied. 2 grilled cheeses, I add, because good fat makes hard talk walk smoother. She nods and drops 2 water glasses on the table like she is baptizing them. She leaves and the bell over the door rings again for someone who cares less than we do. He looks at my camera bag. I shake my head. Not work. Backup plan. He accepts that. He takes out a folded paper instead. It is the auction receipt, creased once, signed in a loop that could be copied but likely has not been. He sets it on the table like a person setting down a tool. He does not push it my way. He keeps it close enough to claim and far enough to tell me it is not bait. I heard from the board, he says. Thank you for being civil. The word board turns the air colder by a degree I can feel on my wrists. I blow it away with breath I can spare. They watched last night, I say. A text told me to smile. My mouth did what it was paid to. He looks at the window where rain learns to be glass. Then he looks back at me and lowers his voice enough to make the room move closer. Tell me where you left, he says. Not the building. The moment. There are 100 answers that would flatter a person who likes the idea of grit. None are useful. I give him the one that still blinks red at the back of my skull. My code was a toy that became an engine, I say. It was for meter readers and corner lenders and people who get scolded by banks for being poor in the wrong way. I built the part that guesses risk without confusing it with cruelty. I left when a man I loved took my work into a room where men cracked jokes with numbers, then told me they had sent it to live on a farm. They sent me a plant and a gift card. I still water the plant out of spite. The card bought 2 months of bus fare. The soups arrive, steam sighing in a good way. He waits until the waitress is out of reach before he speaks again. What did you call the core? He asks, like he knows names can prove a person owns a thing even when paper tries to say they do not. It had a nickname, I say. Swimmer. Because the loops did not drown if a number flailed. Because I wanted the logic to save itself under pressure. I kept a version named Swimmer on my old drive until a man I will not name took it and renamed it under his account like you can rename a child by buying it a nicer coat. He does not take notes. His eyes do something near the corner that looks like memory being careful. He spoons soup like a person who still says grace in his head even when the room is noisy. He is the kind who will be underestimated for it. He eats half, stops, and folds his hands again. Do you have a zip? He asks. An email to yourself that never got sent. A photo of a terminal window in a reflection on a screen. Anything off the ledger. Old habits. I laugh once. Not loud. A printout dated the day I closed the laptop and walked. Variable names written in pen next to the names my mother used to call me out of trouble. A note to self about a fix I never got to commit. The drives died on principle when the rent was late. But paper is stubborn. I have stubborn paper. He is silent for a beat that feels like a test I did not study for. Then he nods. Paper will do, he says. He reaches for his phone like it is a scalpel. He does not unlock it. He holds it and considers a message he will send later. Not now, not here. He sets it down again, screen dark, and picks up his spoon. Across the aisle, a teenager loses a fry to gravity, and the parental sigh that follows sounds like my kitchen at 8 on a Thursday. The bell over the door rings twice with the weather. Outside, a black sedan idles with its lights off. The engine noise rides low. I angle the water glass so I can watch without staring. The sedan moves on. Another car takes its place. White. Clean. The kind with a window you cannot see into even if you beg. You live under glass, I say. He shakes his head. Glass lives around me. I try to keep my skin. The grilled cheese arrives butter side up. The waitress slides extra napkins into the space between us like a small white flag. Adrian folds his napkin with the kind of care people give paper when it has already cut them once. He eats with both hands and does not pretend to hate it. Last night, I say. Someone stepped onto the terrace and the air changed. I could feel a storm try to teach itself how to be polite. He looks at me in a way that makes me wish I had said less. He sips water and puts the glass down gently, as if he is trying not to give away a truth that will make both of us get up and go somewhere worse. There are people who want this story to be about romance, he says. They will paint you as a prize. They will paint me as a man who wants to make up for something nobody can name. He pauses. That is not a story I have any interest in buying. Good, I say. Romance without spine is a chandelier with no ceiling. He almost smiles again. It makes my stomach bark at me to behave. Tell me about your son, he says. I tell him that he sleeps with a ball under his arm like a second heart, that he can tell time without a clock because he knows which bus size at the corner at 9, that I lied about Santa one year and he forgave me by drawing a better beard. Adrian listens and does not look for a way to put his name into the sentence. The rain softens. The neon goes from pink to nothing and back again as the transformer decides to try a different attitude. The bell rings for a man with a newspaper folded in thirds. Outside, the white car stays where it is told to. He sets money on the table without counting it in front of me. He tucks the auction receipt in his breast pocket like it is guilty. He looks out the window and then back at me. They will come for you, he says. They already have, I say. The texts use my name like a hand on my shoulder and tell me to smile for the camera. He inhales. He exhale does not wobble. I will not be useful if I rush, he says. The sentence sounds like math deciding to go to war. I reach for the paper placemat and draw 3 boxes with a dull pencil. 1 labeled soup. 1 labeled code. 1 labeled proof. I shade the last box until the paper almost tears. He watches my hand. He nods. I will ask for a session in the morning, he says. No cameras. No chandeliers. Bring your stubborn paper. I will bring a person who knows how to read code without talking. The diner's door opens and the cold walks in with a man in a cap who does not order and does not sit. He leans near the pie case and pretends the cherry is interesting. His eyes keep bouncing to the corner where we do not belong. The cap tilts. The man's mouth does a small bored line. A phone in his pocket lights his coat from underneath like a fish in a net. You have a tail, I say. I know, he says. Do you? I smile. Not tonight, I say. The lie leaves my mouth smooth, then catches behind my teeth when the bell rings again and a woman in a white coat steps in and pretends her shoes like this place. She does not look at us. She looks at the pie. She looks at the neon. She looks at her reflection in the glass, tilts her jaw, and then leaves with a slice to go and a number she did not pay for tucked in her sleeve. The waitress refills our water and coughs twice the way old vents cough. I pay for my half in bills that have been folded into rectangles for too long. He slides his side into the check cover without letting me see the amount. He stands and does not offer a hand. I stand and do not need one. Outside, the rain has stopped with the kind of sudden that makes puddles lie about their depth. The white car across the street idles like a habit. A camera eye peeks out from its small mouth where the mirror meets the door. I lift my hood and pretend to be wet. Adrian lifts his face to the air like he is asking it to pick a team. He points down the block where my street begins to think about getting harder. Walk me 3 houses, I say. The rest is mine. He nods. We do not speak. Our steps match without trying. At the 3rd house, a cat jumps from a stoop and startles into the dark. He stops. He looks at the corner. He looks at me. Thank you for the soup, he says. Thank you for the listening, I say. He inclines his head and leaves. I count to 20 like a person calming her own pulse. The white car pulls away and another takes its place. The text finds me at my door with the soft tap of a nail. Walk away, Tessa. I put my key in the lock and turn. The hallway smells like rain and old paint. I climb the stairs and feel the shape of the camera bag against my leg. At the top, my phone buzzes again with a number that is not unknown. A contact I did not save properly. 1 line. 2 words. Hotel Aurelia. I look at the time. I look at the rain drying on the window glass. I look at the boy sleeping with a ball like a second heart. I slide the camera bag up onto my shoulder. The city downstairs lights a match. I take the fire escape. The Aurelia sits on the river like a secret with polished shoes. Marble cool, brass warm, staff faces that never forget a tip or a sin. I cut past the chandelier crowd and slip into the service corridor. Hotel air always smells the same. Linen. Citrus. Heat trying to pretend it is not tired. The elevator bank glows gold for people who paid to float. I take the freight. A busboy pushes in with a tower of plates and does not ask who I am because my hands know where to go. 11. 12. Roof. The doors open to wind that has learned manners. The rooftop is a rectangle of slate and money. Heat lamps burn like moons over tables dressed in white. The river below is a long dark eyelash. Voices stay low because power believes in whispering. I breathe once into my scarf and keep my camera small. No strap. No flash. Manual focus to keep the distance honest. The lens catches a smear of light, then finds its edge. There she is. Mara Lang. Ice blue tonight, shoulders bare, hair caught at the nape with a pin that could cut. She stands under a heater with Victor Ames, close enough to be a single silhouette when a gust lifts the hem of his coat. His ring finger taps his glass. Her laugh is quiet and shaped like a yes. His hand lands on her waist as if the waist is a lever that moves a room. I crouch behind a planter that smells like rosemary and expensive soil. 2 frames. 3. Click soft. Breathe softer. The first shot catches her smile turned down like a secret. The second catches his mouth tilting for heat. The third lands in the space between a rumor and a headline. Their lips meet, still as a pose, greedy as a theft. The diamond in her ear catches the heater light and throws it like a small star. My heart goes loud enough to trip a wire. I widen, tuck a sliver of the coal tower skyline into the left edge of the frame for context the board cannot unsee. I shoot again. Insurance. The wind nudges my shoulder. I step back and a service tray skates. The smallest clang in the world. Not small enough. A bodyguard turns at the far rail. Earpiece. Flat shoes. Eyes that read everything. He clocks the shape of me in the shadow between two heaters. His look is not a question. It is a path. I move. Not a run. A glide. Camera down, body up, the walk of someone aloud where she is. I round the heater and slide into the door that leads to the service stair like I was born to it. My phone taps my hip. Unknown number. 2 words. Walk away. I ignore the sting and go down 2 flights while counting respirations so I do not leave part of my lung on the landing. The stairwell smells like carpet when it has lied. On 4, I slip through a laundry door and cross a hall with blue lights glowing above room numbers like secrets waiting to be remembered. The bar on this level is leather dark and amber soft. Men who sell mercy sit with men who buy it. I pass a mirror and my face looks like someone who is used to being told she cannot afford to know what she knows. At the corner, Liam is there, of course he is, in a jacket someone else paid for, telling a story that makes a woman touch her throat like a jewelry model. I keep my eyes on the far exit. I keep my steps even. I keep my rage for when a judge will need it more than I do. The bodyguard appears in the glass behind the bar like an eclipse changing its mind. He scans faces. He looks past me once, twice. On the 3rd pass, he sees the camera. He tips his chin and an associate peels off the wall by the kitchen door. He is the impatient kind. He moves like a right hook. I drift into the powder room because rich women taught me that some doors still belong to us. Inside is velvet and lighting that makes lies look rested. A woman in a white coat dabs at her lipstick and examines her bones. She leaves a scent that costs a bill with a portrait on it and does not look at me. When the door closes, I crouch and split the card. Primary and backup. The camera tucks twin shots on twin plastic teeth because mistakes are for men who know someone will clean for them. I slide the backup into the seam under the sink where a loose tile leans like a lazy coin. I hold the primary between 2 fingers and slide it under the tape on the back of my phone case. The tile eases back. The mirror throws my eyes at me like a dare. I wash my hands because what we are doing requires clean. The door opens with a soft shove. A woman in a housekeeping uniform steps in, but the shoes are wrong. Too stiff. The smile is wrong. Too fast. She reaches for the roll of paper towels and the sleeves of the uniform creep up her wrist. Underneath, a line of stitching that says she has not worn this to work a day in her life. I smile at her in a way that says I am what I look like. She smiles back in a way that says so am I. We pass. The door closes. I am already gone. Back into the bar and out the side exit where a stair goes down to the alley that smells like old rain and deliveries. Footsteps hit the landing above me. 2 sets. 1 heavy. 1 impatient. The impatient one laughs. The heavy one checks a message and grunts. I cut right and slip into the service tunnel that runs the length of the block. I can feel the river through the walls. I can feel the city chewing another story while it waits to bite this one. I reach the loading bay and the night guard raises an eyebrow when he sees the camera bag under my arm. Lost your table, he says. Found what I needed, I say. He smirks like I passed a test he no longer gives. He lights a cigarette and turns his head so the smoke does not climb on me. The door to the dock is a rectangle of cold on my face. I step out and across the wet concrete to the curb, where taxis line up like dogs who know who feeds them. The impatient voice barks behind me. Hey. He is close. Too close. He is 2 strides away when I decide that tonight I am not losing my breath to men who think my feet are theirs. I pivot as if I am changing my mind about a cab. I drop my phone. I let it clatter. The impatient one lunges because he is obedient to the laws of gravity and greed. He reaches for the phone. I reach for his wrist. It is soft in the wrong places. He flinches. The heavy one swears, grabs my tote, and finds nothing but a sweater and a notebook that says grocery list, not evidence. I scoop the phone with my toe and kick it under a delivery truck with a left I have not used since I was old enough to insist on my own door. The impatient one starts to duck. He hits the truck bumper with his shoulder and cusses in a way that will be funny when I am safely home. The heavy one yanks my tote until the strap says enough and snaps. He stumbles back 2 steps and lands on a pallet of water with the grace of a refrigerator. The night guard laughs once, low. He does not step in. He does not need to. The hotel's outside camera watches without blinking. I slide into the second cab in the line because the first cab is always the one you are meant to avoid. The driver watches me in the rear view with eyes that have driven women and choices home for years. You in trouble, he asks. Not my favorite Tuesday, I say. He nods. He pulls away. The river shrinks to a thread and then to nothing. The Aurelia falls behind. My heart does not calm. The text comes back like a mosquito. Walk away, Tessa. This time there is a second line. Smile for the board. I send a photo to a cloud that is not mine. A burner account I built when Liam taught me that some men steal softly. The subject line is a single word. Proof. I pick up my phone, slide the primary card deeper under the tape, and watch the city turn into streets I know by the way the traffic lights choose favorites. The driver takes Salem and 10th because he understands how to outrun old decisions. We stop 2 blocks from my building. He taps the meter and then waves it off like a man deciding to keep his good deed between himself and sleep. I tip too high and he pretends not to see it. My street is a pocket of quiet that has learned to crouch. I keep my camera bag in front like a baby a stranger will not touch. The stairwell door clicks open when it knows my key. The hallway smells like someone's dinner and clean laundry, and for a second I am standing in a life that is only mine. I take 1 step into my apartment and froze. Someone is sitting at my tiny table, back to the window, shoes too clean for my floor. My lamp makes a ring of light around the shape of his hands. Liam lifts his head. He smiles like the first time he took me to a rooftop and sold me a skyline as if he had built it. We need to talk, Tess, he says, voice easy, eyes bright with a kind of fear that only shows when a man knows the math is about to go public. Behind his chair, my son's drawing flutters on the fridge like a flag that is trying to warn a country. I close the door until the latch almost kisses home and does not. The hall breathes. The city holds its breath with it. And from the counter where I left my phone to charge last night, a new message glows in the dark and slides a blade under the scene. From a number with a name I did not save because I did not need to. Mara. Open the door, Tessa. Or we will open it for you. Mara's text glowed on the counter like a razor. Open the door, Tessa. Or we will open it for you. Liam sat at my little table with a smile that used to work. The lamp ringed his wrists in light. He had taken off his watch to look harmless. It only made the lie show. You let yourself in, I said. Key under the mat, he said, soft, as if the memory were cute. My thumb slid over my screen and killed the home alert before it could ping the sitter. I tilted the phone and took a photo that looked like I was checking the time. Liam at my table. My lamp on his face. Proof likes to be collected before it knows its job. The hall breathed against the door. A second text nudged my hand. Be smart. You have 2 minutes, I told Liam. Make them worth a month's rent. He leaned back like a man about to pour a story he had practiced. No story can hold my rent, I said. Code can. Talk. He tried charm. He tried sorrow. Then he dropped into what always gave him courage. Details. Swimmer, he said, eyes very clear. That little core you used to call your fish. It could not drown when the data thrashed. He smiled at the wall. The name suited it. We made it pretty. We made it fast. We made it marketable. You mean you renamed it and walked it into a room that likes shirts with crisp collars, I said. He flinched. The flinch made me ache in a way that made me angry at myself. He went on. They scrubbed the trail. Tess. The commit chain was relabeled. My manager said no one will chase a branch if the title is boring. He took a breath. Your variable names gave you away. He laughed once. You always hid kindness in the math, like a dare. I shoved the chair with my hip and opened the cupboard above the stove. A shoebox sat behind the old cake pan. Paper sleeps in shoeboxes when you do not have a safe. I slid out a stack of prints bound with twine. The top sheet was dated the week I walked. In the corner, in pen, my little notes. Swimmer_score with a line to a margin scribble. Do not punish late pay. Window_limit with a line to a margin scribble. Widen when job hours change. Liam looked like a man watching a ghost pull up a chair. He reached. I kept the stack in my hand. Why are you here? I asked. To get ahead of the board, he said. To ask you to share a line that clears me. Just one line. Say we worked on it together. Say I had your blessing. He swallowed. He tried again. I can make the leak lie. I can send money. We can put this down and sleep. In the hall, a heel tapped once and stopped. That pause sounded like a woman who enjoyed timing. I stepped closer to the door so my body covered the lock. I typed a single line to the only number that mattered. Ring me now. I left the ringer on. When it vibrated, I put the call on speaker, face down on the table. Adrian's voice came through the thin speaker, low, even, precise. Say your name, he said. Liam blinked. He laughed because men laugh when they have nowhere to put their hands. He said his name. He said his title from 2 jobs ago and swallowed the one he wears today because it tastes like someone else's money. Adrian did not ask him to sit. He did not ask him to stand. He asked the only thing that mattered. Where is the repo you sent your manager the week Tessa quit? Liam's eyes slid to the fridge where my kid's drawing flapped in the air from the vent. He told a half-truth before he remembered who was in the room. There was a backup at home. There was a transfer on a day the city flooded and nobody minded files moving as long as the servers did not drown. He said the dates. They painted a line that pointed straight across the river to Cole's micro-loan engine. Adrian did not raise his voice. He did not need to. You will send whatever you still have, he said. You will send it to a person who can read your bones. You will not touch the cloud again until you are told you are allowed to. If you touch it, I will make sure the only work you get pays in cash and shame. Liam's eyes went glassy. He stared at the speaker as if a hand might come out of the little holes. He tried a word. Friend. It sounded like a coin dropped down a well. Adrian hung up. The hall exhaled like a lung that wanted to perform. I texted the sitter. If the bell rings, do not open. She sent back a question mark and a heart, and I hated that she thought a heart could help tonight. I turned the deadbolt and watched the latch ease into the strike plate without sound. Then I slid the chain because noise is a kind of message. It whispered metal on metal. The heel outside twitched once. I set the shoebox stack on the table. I took a picture of swimmer_score with my name in pen. I took a picture of window_limit with my messy long S. I sent both to Adrian without a caption. The dots on my screen pulsed, stopped, pulsed. A ping landed. He had answered with a sentence that trembled the glass. I sent your prince to a quiet engineer. Give me 20. Stay clear of the door. I put the phone beside the lamp. I leaned over my sleeping kid and kissed the warm crown of his head. An old superstition. The kind that says I will make it back upstairs to do it again. Liam stood. He tried to look taller than the table. He failed. He pointed his chin toward my camera bag like a dog who had learned a new word. You went to the Aurelia, he said. Of course you did. He smiled because anger had finally found the shape of his mouth. You always had a taste for fireworks. I picked up the bag and set it on the chair. There is nothing in here for you, I said. He believed me because I had practiced the sentence for years. The door shivered. The chain held. A soft voice slid through the seam. Tessa, love, the building wants quiet, Mara said. It was the kind of voice that sells mercy while it plans a cut. Open. I kept my tone light, the way you talk to your neighbor when you both pretend you did not hear glass. My kid is asleep, I said. Come back when men remember how to knock. She laughed. It was clean and it meant trouble. Thing is, the board needs you now. Bring your little stack. Come smile for the right camera. Or we will bring the camera to you. There was a soft click, like a code trying the lock. The panel flashed red, green, red. The chain whispered metal again, an animal bearing teeth. My phone lit. A new pane from Adrian. The quiet engineer found the ghost. The diff is a map with your handwriting. Your comments are there, just stripped of your name. The function now called River_Bank begins with your chant to never punish lateness. The loop that narrows the window when a client is ill is yours down to the misspelling you always make when you are tired. He did not write what came next in any sentence. He did not need to. I read it in the space. This is theft. He sent a second line before my breath settled. I can call a session at dawn. Or I can send the file to police now. Your choice. On my table, the soup pencil from last night's diner sat in the dish with keys. I picked it up and drew 3 boxes on the back of an unpaid electric bill. Board. Police. Both. I shaded both until the paper almost tore. Liam watched my hand with a face that remembered the last time I chose something that cost him. I took a picture of the boxes and sent it to Adrian. He answered with 2 words that respected me. You choose. I closed my eyes for 1 beat. My son breathed from the sofa like a small tide. The chain trembled with a new idea. The heel outside shifted. Victor's voice joined Mara's, lower, tired, ugly around the edges. He said my last name like it was a line item he wanted to erase. I opened my eyes and texted back. Board first. Police second. It felt like picking the order of knives, not whether to use them. Adrian's reply arrived with a map. Emergency board at 8. No press. Bring paper. My engineer will project. Do not open to anyone until you leave with my driver. He added a final line that made the room stand still for a second. If I am late, start without me. Liam laughed then. It was small and sharp and did not reach his eyes. They will ruin you either way, he said. The story is already written. You get to choose your villain. He glanced at my kid. He tightened his jaw. Tell him I tried. I stepped between the sofa and Liam. My voice did not rise. You never try hard enough unless something is easy, I said. The chain on the door lifted as far as it could and held. A key scraped. The panel flashed green and stayed there like a threat that had found caffeine. Mara's tone changed shape. Last count, she said. Then the building manager will open under safety. You will come pretty or you will come blurred. My phone shook on the table. Not Adrian this time. A number I had filed under Diner and Mercy. The waitress. You left a folded paper on the table. A man in a white coat asked for it. I kept it. Come get it. There was a photo under the line. My placemat from last night with 3 boxes drawn in dull pencil. Someone had taken a picture of my choice. I looked at Liam. His face drained. He swallowed a new plan and pretended he had not had it. The chain rattled once more, polite becoming impatient. The deadbolt lifted halfway and stuck on the silver key Nora had taught me to wedge when a door forgets who it belongs to. Metal sang. I grabbed the shoebox stack and slid it into the oven because thieves never check ovens in apartments with radiators that work. I pocketed 2 prints. Swimmer _score. Window _limit. I tucked my kid into the blanket like I was tucking him into a boat I would carry to shore. I slipped the primary card deeper under the phone case tape. The backup slept under a hotel tile 3 miles away. Adrian's last text landed like a hand catching mine in a crowd. Driver 2 minutes out. Back stairs. Do not use the front. The chain thrummed. The panel held green. Liam stood up as if the room were done with him and he wanted to leave before the room said so. He moved toward the kitchen. I moved faster. He stopped. For one breath, we were 2 people who had built a thing that did not pay our rent and now would pay for other people's mistakes. The building manager's key slid home on the other side. It turned with a patience learned from 100 small crises. I scooped my kid. He curled against my neck on reflex. His ball bumped my hip like a second heart. I swung the camera bag to the front. Liam put his hand out and then put it down because even he knew better now. I killed the lamp. The apartment cooled into shadow. The panel blinked green one more time like the color had decided to live here. I eased the bedroom window open and the fire escape breathed in. The city exhaled. Behind me, the lock gave and the first inch of the door kissed open against the chain with a sound that felt like a promise breaking. I stepped onto the iron and pulled the window shut until only a ribbon of night slid through. I held my kid. The bag thumped my ribs. The driver's headlights slid down the alley like a rumor I wanted to keep. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. Bored at 8, Adrian wrote. Bring proof. Below me, the alley door eased open and a pair of polished shoes tested the wet. Above me, the stair creaked with the weight of a neighbor who had decided to be brave. I took the first step down. The chain inside my apartment sang a thin metal note. The hand on my back was not a hand. It was the kind of adrenaline that keeps you from falling. At the bottom of the fire escape, the driver lifted a hand without showing his face. I moved toward the car. Behind me, someone called my name in a voice that had always cost me something. Tess. Wait. I did not. The driver idled in the alley with the patience of a locksmith. I slid into the back seat with my son warm against my shoulder, the camera bag tight to my ribs, the city turning its face away like it knew it had gone too far. 2 blocks later, I handed my boy to the sitter at her door, kissed the crown of his head, and pressed my breath into his hair like a superstition that had earned its keep. The driver did not look in the rear view. Good men know when not to witness. Diner first. The bell over the door shook itself awake. The waitress lifted the folded place mat from under the register like a map you only show to people who have bled in the right places. 3 boxes in pencil. Bored. Police. Both. Her handwriting added one more word in the corner. Careful. I slipped her a tip that would keep her lights on 1 more month, and she pretended we were talking about pickles. Back in the car, I texted Adrian a single picture. He replied with the kind of sentence that can hold up a room. Driver knows the route. Do the bar. Then straight to Cole Tower. The Aurelia's bar was amber dark and loud in a low way. The mirror behind the bottles threw the room back at itself until everyone looked softer and richer. I took the stool at the end and set my phone face down on the wood so it could listen politely. He arrived like a habit that had learned manners. Liam in a jacket that fit better than his decisions, Victor a step behind, coat open, eyes bright with numbers and fear. A third man in shadow took up the wall like a door that could learn to walk. Liam started with my name and old weather. I let it blow past. Victor did not bother with air. He slid a white envelope across the bar until it touched my wrist. For the trouble, he said. For the misunderstanding. For the smile. I did not touch it. I kept my hands where he could see them and my breath where I needed it. I tilted my chin toward the ceiling camera and the corner lens over the piano. He followed my look and smiled like he enjoyed being seen. You brought a friend, I said. The board likes certainty, he answered. Certainty travels in pairs. He glanced at Liam. The look said, do not try words. Liam obeyed. He stared at his glass like it had promised him a shore. I picked up my phone and tapped the gallery with a thumb that did not shake. A rooftop. A heater. A kiss that had never belonged to me. I sized the frame until the diamond in Mara's ear caught the light like a knife. Victor's hand stilled. His pupils did the math. He swept a napkin over the envelope as if the bar might stain it and finally understood what had teeth in this room. How much, he said, too fast to hide the habit. Not money, I said. Paper. Tomorrow. 8. You will sit. You will listen to my engineer read line for line. You will not smear me when the room remembers my name. You will step down before the vote. You will keep your mouth as clean as you can manage. And when the press calls, you will call it what it is. Theft. He laughed once without humor. You think you can make a board move with a photo and a fondness for justice. I swiped to the second picture. The one with Cole Tower flaring on the left edge like a witness with good eyesight. I let it land in his eyes and then tucked it away again. Not a threat. A weather report. The man in the shadow cracked his fingers. Muscle, not security. He did not know what to do with a woman who brought paper instead of fear. Liam shifted on his stool, tried to shape a sentence, found none. Victor leaned in until his cologne pushed the ice out of my glass. You are out of your depth, he said. The sentence came out tender and came from a place where tenderness had been starved. I smiled the way a woman smiles at a man who just miscounted her hours. I tapped my phone and let the audio buffer breathe. The night guard at the print shop saying press 3 leaves a soft edge when we push a deadline. The courier describing the red folder at the back entrance. 2 voices in a tunnel built for deliveries, not secrets. I did not play the names. I did not need to. The shape of the truth did enough work. Victor's mouth found a straight line. He ran a fingertip along the edge of the envelope like a man checking a blade. He softened his tone until it could curdle milk. The story will be that you seduced a generous man to buy a seat at his table, he said. That you dangled a photo to barter for a job you could not earn. That your code is sentimental and unsound. That we cleaned it and saved you from your own heart. I took the envelope and opened it because sometimes you need to look the thing in the face to decide how to kill it. Cash. Clean. Crisp. Heavy. Enough to make someone sleep 2 weeks without dreaming. I slid the envelope back across the wood like a dead thing we all agreed not to keep. He watched it go and did not put his hand out to stop it. That was the first honest move I had ever seen him make. I stood. He stayed seated because a room like this would have to admit it had misread me if he stood. Liam reached as if he could find my wrist the way he used to. I looked at his hand and he found his pocket instead. Someone cleared a throat at the door. The sound did not belong to a waiter or a guard. Adrian, no coat, collar open, rain on his hair like currency that could not be spent here. He looked at me first. Then at Victor. He did not step toward either of us. He let the bar decide how brave it wanted to be. Are we finished? He asked me, voice not loud and not soft. For tonight, I said. He nodded and turned to Victor like he was reading a number he had already known. "The emergency session is set," Adrian said. "You will bring your ledger. You will bring your calendar. You will bring your mouth. If you arrive with anything missing, I will walk this into a room with badges instead." Victor folded his hands to hide their tremor. "You are emotional," he said. "I am employed," Adrian answered. "And I am done being polite about theft." The man in shadow shifted his weight and found the line between fight and pay. He chose pay. Liam stared at the bottom of his glass and saw nothing worth remembering. My phone buzzed twice in my palm. "Nora." A plate reader tagged a sedan loitering outside your sitter's block. The second line from Farah. "Board counsel tried to move the session. We moved it back. You have 10 minutes. Adrian read the change in my face and did not ask. He stepped aside for me to pass as if a door had learned a better job. I slid the photo back into my phone and the phone back under tape. I tucked the placemat in my jacket like a charm. Victor lifted the envelope a fraction and dropped it again. The sound it made was nothing. The sound it made to my spine was a vow. Outside, the rain had decided to start over. The driver rolled up without being called. I got in. Adrian got in. The city unspooled ahead like a cable we were going to burn. At the first light, my phone lit with a single line from a number that had been brave when it thought I was alone. New plan. No board. Hotel roof. Now. I showed Adrian. He read it once. He did not smile. He texted 3 words that made the car seem to grow armor. We pick the roof. The driver turned without being told. The city opened a lane it should not have. The Aurelia's facade rose again like a bad habit. Half a block out, my phone vibrated on its own. The backup card had just uploaded. The rooftop kiss, the tower, the footers, the taped strip on the window. A cloud not tied to my name swallowed them whole and sent back a green check that felt like a breath. We rolled to the curb. The doorman looked down at the rain and pretended to adjust his cuff rather than see this part of the evening. Adrian met my eyes, not a question, a weather check. I nodded. The elevator took us up with the speed of a thought that refuses to be late. The roof door opened to wind and a heater that flickered like a lie running out of gas. 3 figures under the last lamp. Mara, Victor, and a 4th shape in the shadows that did not belong to any name I had used yet. Mara smiled like a saint in glass. Tessa, she said, shall we be kind? I stepped forward with the city at my back and the proof like a live wire in my pocket. The 4th shape moved and the wind brought me a cologne that had been at my door, at my hall, at my night. The shape stepped into the light and the face that had been a rumor found itself named. The roof learned a new silence. The heater hissed. My phone buzzed a single time with a message I did not get to read before the 4th figure spoke my name as if he had built it. He stepped into the heater glow like a verdict. Oliver Grant, principal investor, board whisperer, a suit the color of wet slate and a smile that had closed more doors than locks ever could. Tessa, he said, and made my name sound like an asset class. Kindness first. Then math. Mara stood to his right, diamond ear cold as a star. Victor to his left, coat open, jaw set for a brawl he preferred to fight on paper. Wind lifted the white cloth at their table and laid it down again, a hand learning hesitation. Oliver lifted a palm. Not a threat. A promise of quiet. No board tomorrow, he said. We fix this here. You hand me your little folder and the photos. I hand you certainty. A grant. A role. A life with fewer stairs. Adrian did not move. He stood at my shoulder with the river at his back and wore refusal like a very old suit. The board meets at 8, he said. She will speak. My engineer will read the diff. You can show up or watch from a stream that does not flatter. Oliver laughed once, soft, the way a winter gate laughs when it still opens. "You intend to make a spectacle," he said. "Spectacles lower valuations. Valuations buy jobs. Your head count is not built for your conscience." I stepped forward so the heater threw light across my hands. "I do not need a role in a room that required me to make myself quiet," I said. "I need my name returned to the line where you folded it. I need you to stop telling lies about the difference between theft and speed." Victor's eyes cut to Adrian. "She is recording," he said. "Of course," I said. Oliver's smile did not wobble. "Then record this," he said. "If you press the room, we will press back harder." A file appears. Your face appears. An investor whispers into a phone about a woman who wanted in. "We are very good at writing stories that people like to believe." Adrian's voice sharpened. "You will not smear her," he said. Oliver looked through him the way weather looks through trees. "You walked us into this, Adrian. You used to understand that paper does not love. It only obeys." He turned to me. "Choose mercy, Ms. Hale. Take the check. Smile. Leave us our forecast." Wind nicked my cheek. My pocket buzzed like a trapped bee. A green check from a cloud that did not know me, confirming the backup clip sat somewhere his money could not erase. I lifted my chin. "No board," he said again. "We pick the board," I said. Silence learned a new shape. The bodyguard from last night's chase stood at the stairhead, an outline against the dark, waiting for a nod. Mara's fingers rested on the rail like a promise. Victor watched my pocket like it might make a sound he could arrest. Adrian stepped half a pace ahead of me. "If you touch her phone or her person," he said, "I will turn this into a scene no chandelier can forgive. The roof cameras will make themselves useful for once." Oliver's mouth flattened by a breath. Then he did the one thing men like him do when an evening disappoints. He stepped aside. "That will be all," he said, to the wind. We took the service stairs down, the hotel's breath hot in our faces. In the lobby, the doorman adjusted a cuff, saw too much, and chose grace. The driver eased the car from the curb and the city opened a lane like apology. Adrian stared out at the glass and told me the rules without sounding like a man who liked rules. "You will sit next to me," he said. "You will speak when you want, not when they point. You will not defend your care like it is a weakness. When they smear, we do not chase. We stack proof until the table can carry no more. If I am interrupted, you keep going. If my vote is taken from me, yours will not be." I held the placemat from the diner in my lap like a charm. 3 boxes shaded to the edge of tearing. Board. Police. Both. Cole Tower rose from the avenue like a jaw. The glass box boardroom sat high and visible, a theater pretending to be a church. We rode the private lift in a silence that felt like a steady drum you could walk to. Inside, the table had already gathered its procession. Mara at the head, the diamond ear not bothering to hide. Victor to her right with a binder too neat to be true. 2 directors with pens that clicked when their hearts did. A general counsel with a face trained to look like a wall. Oliver at the window, watching the river like he owned its current. I took my seat at Adrian's left. He put the auction receipt on the wood, a small, unimportant truth amid larger ones, and left it there like a hinge. A junior tech rolled in a screen and placed the remote with the ceremony of a chalice. The door eased shut. The city nose printed the glass. The chair of the audit committee called us to order. In this room, order meant 5 voices pretending to be one. Outside counsel took the first breath and wasted it on calm. "We welcome transparency," he said, "which is glass for please go away." Adrian looked at me. It was not permission. It was weather. I set the placemat on the table face up, proof disguised as a child's drawing. I slid the shoebox prints beside it. Swimmer _score with my pen notes. Window _limit with my long S. The engineer dialed in on a speaker that did not squeal and said hello in a voice that could carry spreadsheets across a canyon. "Begin with function names," Adrian said. The engineer began. He read river_bank line by line, slow, building the bridge in front of the board so they could not claim they had fallen. He pointed to my comments as they survived under a new label, lowercase echoes of a person they had erased. He explained how the loop widened on a patient's illness instead of punishing it, how the window flexed when hours changed, how you could teach math to be decent without turning it into charity and still build a better engine. Mara smiled for half of it. She floated a hand to interrupt. The chair gestured her down with a tilt of the pen. Victor chewed the inside of his mouth until it remembered blood. When the engineer said, "The commit trail shows relabeling within 48 hours of Tessa's resignation," Oliver turned from the window. He did not flinch. He looked like a man checking the price of a commodity he had underhedged. The general counsel leaned into his mic. "None of this proves intent," he said softly. "Engineers borrow. People forget. No court is interested in sentiment." I put the rooftop photo on the glass. Mara under the heater, Victor inside her shadow. The jewel burning. The tower witness on the left edge of the frame. Not a sermon. A knife. Mara did not blink. She is very good at being glass. Victor's pen stopped clicking. Outside counsel said we can address personal matters in a separate conversation and wished he had not needed to. Adrian spoke without raising his voice. "What you are calling personal is motive," he said. "The man you let steer your thresholds covered his theft with a promise under a heat lamp. The chair you trust to announce strategy forgot what fidelity is in 2 separate rooms." Oliver folded his hands. He did not deny. Men like him, no denial is vulgar at certain heights. The engineer brought up the footer zooms. The wrong gray in the page number. The press shop receipt. The courier clip. The hard small things that embarrass people who prefer to debate. Something flickered in the glass behind Mara's shoulder. A reflection. A phone face down that was not face down anymore. A notification pulsing through a privacy screen like a heartbeat that did not consent to secrecy. Mara finally reached for the mic. "Ms. Hale," she said, sweet as winter brandy. "You came here as a guest last night. You left with our founder. You have spent 2 evenings at hotels with a camera. Do you understand why reasonable people might question your motives?" My laugh was not soft. "I came here as unpaid labor to refill your glasses," I said. "Your founder bought dinner, not a future. My camera earned my rent for 3 years while your math stole my name. The women at the diner have a better code of ethics than the men at this table." A director at the far end choked on a cough that might have been a laugh. Oliver tapped the table twice with one finger. "Not for me. For the room. Time." Adrian nodded to the engineer. "Show the commit hash," he said. "Name the day. Name the hand." The engineer shared his screen. A sequence filled the monitor, meaningless to most of the table, sacred to the few who keep machines honest. He read the hash. He read the date. He read the author, a relabel that still leaked the original through a carelessness the thief did not know he owned. "Liam," I said, without looking at Liam. The name lay on the wood and refused to roll. Victor tried one last long shot. "We saved her code," he said. "We optimized it. We were good stewards. This company gave her creation a life. This company gave my creation a salary under another man's name," I said. "And when it paid out, it bought you a balcony." The chair lifted her pen. The clerk steadied. The vote line was walking into the room with iron shoes. That was when the screen went black. Not a flicker. A cut. Then a new feed booted on a delay no one at the table controlled. A clip rolled from an angle that looked like the hotel corridor outside the bar. Grainy. Cropped. Me slipping a card into my phone case. A timestamp without a watermark. A title bar someone had added with a malice that preferred neat fonts. Tessa Hale planting stolen data. The room inhaled a lie like oxygen. Mara exhaled a smile that did not show teeth. Outside counsel said nothing because some lies have to be called by someone braver. I reached for the remote and found the battery had been bled to nothing. Adrian raised a hand to the wall tech, and the tech stared at his shoes, already deciding which job board he would search tonight. Oliver's mouth did not move. He did not need to speak for a weapon to work. My phone throbbed in my pocket. 2 messages climbed the lock screen at the same time. The first from the sitter. 2 men were watching the building from a black sedan. The second from the diner waitress. The man in the white coat came back asking for the placemat. I told him you were already gone. I put both phones face down on the wood. I lifted my eyes to the board and started to speak. The glass swallowed the first word. The screen leaned in like a bully, and the city beyond the window held its breath 1 inch longer than was kind. The grainy clip ate the wall. A corridor, a cropped angle, my hand slipping a card under my phone case. A caption in neat little letters said what it wanted the room to believe. Tessa Hale planting stolen data. Mara folded her fingers on the tabletop like a prayer she did not mean. Victor slowed his breathing and watched the lie do its job. Oliver did not blink. He let the screen speak while the board inhaled doubt like oxygen. I kept my eyes on the engineer's small green light, still live on the speaker. I spoke to him and to the clerk recording minutes in ink that would outlast all of us. Hold on your trace, I said. The video is wrong by the details men forget. That hallway is the Aurelia's 4th floor. 2 months ago, they replaced the sconces with a thinner stem. This one is fat. The carpet border is the old one with the little gold leaves. They pulled it in July. And the woman who passes on the left is wearing the old server uniform. They switched to black aprons last spring because stains were showing up on cameras. This clip is a costume. The chair looked up at the screen and at the director who jogs in that hotel 3 mornings a week. His face said she is right and he hated it. The tech in the corner swallowed and tapped a key he had been told not to tap. Metadata scrolled in a column too fast for anyone to pretend to read. No watermark. A timestamp in a font the hotel stopped using. The tech went pale. Oliver did not turn. He stared at the river like a man who has already moved money while everyone else argues about boats. I slid the placemat from the diner onto the glass. 3 pencil boxes. Board. Police. Both. I wanted the room to see how early I had chosen the shape of my spine. Adrian pointed at the engineer's feed. Continue, he said, steady as a metronome a tired band can trust. Name the hash again. Name the author string it leaked. The engineer did not waver. He read. He traced the rename back to 48 hours after my resignation, a hand that had scrubbed and missed a corner. He described my comments living under new labels the way a shy animal lives behind a fence. He did not sweeten it. He did not stab. He let the facts be heavy. Mara lifted the mic and tried for a new weather. Ms. Hale, she said, you asked to be paid at the gala. You left with our founder. You went to the Aurelia and took pictures. It is reasonable to question your motives when you have built your own spotlight. I let my laugh cut and stay on the table. I asked to be paid because rent lives in my kitchen. Your founder bought soup, not my future. I went to the Aurelia because truth does not like the lobby. And if I talk about this in a room with no chandeliers, it is because rooms like this enjoy watching women explain their own theft. Victor leaned toward outside counsel. You see, he said softly, she rehearsed this. I did, I said. I practiced to stop shaking while the men you trust practiced a way to erase my name. Adrian turned his head slightly. That small move kept me from burning the whole place down. The tech cleared his throat. The hotel confirms the video font is old, he said. The desk sent a replacement policy notice last month, and the clip has an overlay striping pattern from a recorder they sent to recycling in May. Outside counsel adjusted his cuff and reached for a tone that sounded like steam. The provenance of that clip is disputed. Relevance is minimal. I propose we postpone this session. No, Adrian said. We vote on whether to void the late addendum. We vote on whether to remove those who benefited from it. We vote while memory still remembers. Oliver tapped the table once with a fingertip. Power does not pound. Power knocks and expects people to open. He looked to the chair. The chair did not move. She looked to the clerk. The clerk kept writing. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Sitter. 2 men still outside. One took a photo of the door. My mouth dried to salt. A second buzz landed under it. Diner. The man in the white coat came back. Asked for the placemat. I told him to try the river. The screen tried to blink again. Nora would have called it a last gasp. The engineer stayed live. He felt the turn and kept the bridge steady. Commit hash. Date. Author string. Misspelling I always make when I am tired. He grounded the table while the lie ran out of air. The chair set her pen down. The room knew what that meant. She looked at me, then at Adrian. Say your line, she said. I said it the way I had said it in rooms that did not have rivers for windows. Do not sign. Strike the addendum. Say it for the record. Then fix your house out loud. Outside counsel opened his mouth and someone under the table kicked his shoe. Oliver shrugged, a small wave of silk. He looked at Adrian and spoke from the side of his mouth so the room would forget to call it out. If you carry this to a vote, your investors will carry their money out of the building. Adrian did not smirk and did not bow. He nodded once as if the threat had been seen before breakfast. Then I will carry this house with different money, he said. We build something useful or we bury it. Either costs the same to my sleep. It was the worst sentence to say, and the only one the room had not been punished enough to hear. The guard in the hall moved like a new instruction had just learned to tie its own shoes. He opened the door enough to fit his shoulder. There is a situation downstairs, he said. 2 men. Sitter called. They are at Ms. Hale's block. It was enough to make me stand in the wrong way. Adrian stood too, but different. He turned toward the chair and his voice found that low register that puts candlelight out without making smoke. We recess for 10 minutes, he said. Call the vote when I return. If I do not return, call it anyway. Oliver spoke while no one dared write. If you walk out with her, he said, you are no longer neutral. I walk to the door because my son sleeps with a ball under his arm and some things do not sit still for board calendars. The elevator lobby was cold as a wake. Polished stone. A view meant to remind you that glass eats anyone who forgets their shoes. The private car waited with its circle lit green. The reader under the call button blinked like an eye. Adrian palmed a badge against the plate and the panel read his bones. He slid the second badge to me. Thin plastic. Warm from his hand. It will recognize you, he said. I put your name in this morning. I touched the badge to the plate. The light went a deeper green like the building had decided to learn it. Welcome, it said in a voice that used to be metal and was now something like human. Tessa Hale verified. The doors slid. We stepped in. The car smelled like new wires and the kind of carpet that costs an hour of wages every square inch. Adrian pressed 2 floors. Garage. Street. The doors almost met. A hand slid through. Oliver's man. The one who stands still and makes doors nervous. His jacket folded on muscles like heat shrink. He tried to step in sideways with the confidence of a person whose life has taught him that metal and women both move when asked. Adrian did not put his hands on the man. He put his hand on the sensor rail, and the door learned to pause. He looked down at the hand between the doors and then up into the face above it. "If you ride," he said, "you will be filmed restraining a mother on her way to a frightened child. If you stand back, you will still have work when this room forgets today. Choose how much of your pride the cameras keep. In a different city, the hand would have forced it. In this one, the man looked at the lens in the corner, imagined his mother or her ghost, and let his fingers go. The door met itself and turned the world into the soft hum of a machine trying to do its best. Halfway down, the car jolted and stopped. Not a flicker, a hold. The panel went amber. A new voice slid into the ceiling speaker like a smile with a bill. "Override requested," it said. "Please authenticate." Adrian looked at me, and I looked at the badge and the amber light. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another message from the sitter. "The men are at the call box now. They are asking floor numbers. Help." I pressed the badge to the emergency plate and felt the car think about who it wanted to be. The speaker waited like it had learned patience from the very rich. "Authenticate," it said again, more polite now, which is a bad sign when a building is lying. The panel flashed a list of names and permissions like a ladder. At the top, the word investor. Under it, founder. Under that, visitor. My name pulsed at the bottom like a fish that had learned air was possible. The amber turned red for a heartbeat. Somewhere above us a relay clicked the way a jaw clicks before a fight. The car breathed. Adrian slid his badge under mine, and the system decided love was not a crime. The light flipped back to green. "Garage in 10 seconds, the speaker said. The floor counter ticked. 9, 8, 7. And then the elevator, that quiet box that had just learned my name, stopped again between two numbers a breath apart. The panel went dark. The speaker sighed once like a tired actor stepping off stage. My phone lit the car blue. The sitter's message stacked on the blacks like cards. "They are in the lobby now. Someone just propped the front door. I am in the stairwell. Tell me what to do." I lifted the badge again, and the plate refused to notice me, the way certain doors do before they learn manners. Adrian put his palm flat to the seam where the doors touch. The car shivered like an animal making up its mind. Above us, the override voice returned, softer this time, as if a hand had covered its mouth. "Please remain calm," it said. "Assistance on the way." Calm is a chair that collapses when you sit on it. I did not sit. I put my hand on the panel like it was skin and spoke to the closed mouth of a machine. "Open," I said. The red light in the corner blinked twice like an eye, trying to remember what honesty looks like. The car began to move. Or thought about moving. Or pretended. The hum rose. The floor counter slid 1 digit. The badge in my fist warmed. And then the speaker whispered one more sentence in a human tone that belonged to neither building nor board. "Do not go to the garage. They are waiting." The voice in the elevator was not metal anymore. It was Nora on a line she had no legal right to have and every moral reason to use. The panel blinked red, then green, then thought better of lying. "Street," I said. Adrian pressed for lobby and kept his palm flat on the seam so the door could feel his patience. The car sighed, chose us, and slid to a stop. When the doors opened, the air tasted like marble and nerves. The security desk looked up as if it had spent a long night learning names it was not supposed to know. 2 men were already walking into my building 3 miles away. The sitter's text sat on my screen like a spark. I typed the thing you only type when you mean it with your bones. Up the stairs. 3rd floor neighbor. Lock twice. Call. Do not open. The guard at the desk watched my hands move and turned his monitor toward us. He had pulled the sitcam from my intercom and mirrored it to his screen before I asked. The two men in the lobby were grainy and wrong enough to be useful. He spoke once into his radio. A second guard lifted a badge and left at a run. The building decided to be kind. It does not happen often. You learn to recognize it. Back in the boardroom, the glass waited with its expensive calm. The clerk's hand hovered over the line where a vote would land. Adrian set the auction receipt back on the table like a hinge that remembered its job and nodded to the engineer. Keep going. Do not stop for theatrics. The engineer went on. Commit hash. Author string leaking through a lazy relabel. My misspelling bottled under a new name like a firefly that still glowed. The tech who had flinched under the fake clip found a backbone and added the hotel's metadata fix. New sconces. New carpet border. Old font. The lie had missed the set change. It looked cheap under bright lights. Mara did not blink. She had trained her face to hold a chandelier. Victor's pen stopped clicking because there is a point where small noises give you away. Oliver stood by the window and let the river speak for him. Then Nora walked into the room like a woman who had forgiven none of these walls. She placed a printout on the table in front of the chair. Access attempt, she said. Elevator override pinged from a badge that does not belong to facilities. The timestamp matches the minute the car froze between floors. The initials on the badge belong to an investor who prefers marble to carpet. A single breath went through the table, quick and mean and satisfied. Oliver did not wince. Men like that ration flinches. Outside counsel cleared his throat and reached for steam. This is procedurally unhelpful. The chair looked at him the way winter looks at a flower. It was not a question. Nora put down one more piece for the clerk. Door log from my building. Someone tried my code at 2:04. The system flashed green, then red, then green because her trick key refused to die. The security company would call that evidence. In this room it read like motive. Adrian's phone lit with a line that rearranged the air. Sitter safe. 2 men left. Patrol took plate. I saw the breath leave his chest and not return to him. Not yet, because there was work to finish. We moved to the edge of the thing without putting our feet on it. The engineer ended with the part that mattered to people who pretend code is dry. Your engine makes more honest money when it refuses to punish lateness. The returns rose when the loop shifted to life instead of debt. This theft did not save you. Her care did. Silence learned to hold still. The chair lifted her pen. She spoke without embroidery. Motion 1. Void the late addendum barring it from effect and from any future copy. All in favor. Hands rose. The clerk wrote fast. The shape of the room shifted by a degree my skin could measure. Motion 2. Remove Victor Ames from any authority while the independent review proceeds. Effective immediately. Victor's jaw worked. His hand did not rise. Others did. The clerk wrote again. A different kind of silence walked in. It stood behind his chair and did not touch him. That can be worse. Motion 3. The board chair cedes the gavel to the audit lead until this review is complete, given conflicts that are no longer theoretical. Mara finally turned her head to look at me. The diamond did its best under a light that had stopped admiring it. She did not speak. The vote carried. The gavel moved 3 inches and burned the table doing it. Motion 4. Referral to the district attorney for theft and interference, along with preservation orders for anything someone might be tempted to misplace. No one pretended to be confused. The clerk wrote like a woman who knew how to keep history from wandering. Oliver did not reach for his phone. He stared at the river and did math. When he turned back to the table, his smile had the fine cracks of porcelain you only see when you have your hands on it. You will cost me money, he said to Adrian. He said it like weather, not a threat. It was truer that way. Adrian did not argue. He nodded once as if prices were a language he had not forgotten how to read. Then he looked at me. Not for permission. For the rhythm of the next breath. Say it for the record, the chair said. I said it because I had earned the right. Do not sign. Strike what steals. Write it clean next time and pay for what you use. The clerk set down her pen. The room understood that paper had just learned a new trick. It had decided to tell a story that did not apologize for itself. Outside, the city went on pretending not to have heard. Inside, people began to stand in pieces, all of them suddenly busy. Victor pushed his chair in half an inch too far, and the sound it made would keep me warm for a week. Mara slipped her scarf through the ring on her coat, and it caught on a thread. She did not tug. She remembered how stories tear when you rush them. Oliver paused by Adrian's shoulder. He leaned in just enough to make it private and said a line that people at those heights teach each other in rooms the rest of us wipe down. I will not forget this. Neither will I, Adrian said. He did not try to make it sweet. We left before anyone could discover a reason to be brave in the wrong direction. In the lobby, the guard with the tired eyes lifted a hand that meant the sitter had texted again. Safe. The men were not patient when the door did not obey them. I turned the badge in my fingers while the elevator thought about learning my name one more time. The speaker stayed quiet. That felt like respect. On the street, the wind pushed the river smell up the block. The driver pulled around with the kind of timing you can thank or pay. Adrian did not ask me to ride with him. He did not lean toward the empty agenda his assistants would already be stitching back together. He stood there like a person who knew how to give a hallway back to itself. My building stairs were wet from boots that had given up on subtlety. Third-floor neighbor had left a mug of tea on the mat with a note that said sugar in the jar. Door stays locked. My kid was asleep on the sitter's couch with his ball under his arm and his mouth open just enough to make a small, stubborn sound. I pressed my lips to his hair and breathed without shaking for the first time since the elevator lied. Later, on the stoop, the city sat with me like a friend who knows better than to start a speech. Adrian walked down the block without a driver and without an umbrella. He stopped at the stoop and kept his hands in his pockets so the night would not think he planned to fix it. You have a practice after school, he said, not proud of knowing, not apologizing. He does, I said. He nodded to the ball tucked behind the door like a second heart. I can take first run on the cones, he said. I am better at carrying bags than I am at clapping. I had a line ready for any other version of the night. It did not fit here. I tossed it aside and let the truth be small and useful. Soup after, I said. Diner on 7th. Paper place mats. He smiled like a very tired man who had earned the right to keep it brief. He turned away because decent people let you keep your door to yourself. The streetlight cut the rain into thin lines and then stopped altogether. Inside, my oven held a shoebox where paper slept with its eyes open. The phone on my table hummed once with a message from the engineer. Diff archived. Evidence sealed. He added a line he probably never gets to send. Your misspelling saved us. I laughed into the quiet and let it stay. I rested the badge on the counter and felt the building breathe like a tame animal. Out on the sidewalk, Adrian paused at the corner where the block begins to get louder. He raised one hand without turning his head. A thank you, not a wave. I locked the door twice and stood where the radiator learns to sing. The city tested its windows and decided to hold. The story did not end. It shifted. Paper would keep talking. So would we. And in the morning a boy would lace his shoes, and a man who had never liked cameras would carry a bag down a set of stairs that could finally say a name without flinching.